Hello, my name's Paxton. I am filming a bunch of videos about testosterone and the process of it and what it is and how it works and all that stuff. Today's video we're doing different forms of testosterone. We're gonna go over the shots versus gels versus patch, that kind of thing. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff. I have my little script, and I have lots of notes. This is a 3-inch binder. Not filled with notes, but it will be one day. I've got a lot of things. Okay, so I just want to start by saying I do the shot. I've never done the gel or the patch or any other forms. I started with the shot and it worked great for me, so I just kept going. Which may make one inclined to think, why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, I did a lot of research, as you can see. A lot of research. Okay. So you were probably watching this because you're trying to decide if you want to take it, and if you do, what kind you want to take. But I just want to say this video, it's a lot of just information. My last video was it was more anecdotal, a lot more fun, more stories. This one's just a lot of kind of facts thrown kind of quickly all at once. So if you need a break, pause the video, go take a lap, drink some water, do whatever you need. I'll be here. Specifically, this is gonna be versus the shot versus the gel / patch, because the gel and the patch are very similar in a lot of ways. Really, the main way they're different is just one slightly lower dose, and I'll go into that later. We're going to start with the differences, but first I'm going to kind of explain what we're working with. So for the injection, there are two types. There's intramuscular and there's subcutaneous, also called sub-Q. Intramuscular means in the muscle, so when you're doing the shot, it'll be a bit of a longer needle and go in the muscle. And then sub-Q or subcutaneous is means it's below the skin, so it's a little bit lower. It's still kind of the same thing. I'm not too certain on the differences between the two. It's the same thing pretty much. It's just different size needles, I'm pretty sure. I think it just depends on your dose, really. But I can show you, because a lot of people don't know how it works. I have something, actually. So I take a physio class. I'm in a physiology class, and we had to do, a model of the skin. And this is mine. It's really gorgeous, I know. So there are 3 main layers. There's 5 layers, but there's 3 main layers. There's the hypodermis, there's the dermis, and then there's a subcutaneous layer. The subcutaneous layer is all just a bunch of fat cells or adipose cells. And then underneath there's some other stuff, but underneath it's pretty much just muscle, and then there's some stuff connected to the muscle and things like that. But yeah, so when you do the subcutaneous shot, it'll go down through the layers, and then I assume it's below the fat tissue, but it could be in it at the same. It's not going to be above it though, so it's going to be in or below the subcutaneous layer. And then if you do intramuscular, it's going to be a little bit lower. So this is really sized up. I mean, my needle's only like this long, and I do intramuscular, it's only like this long. So this is really sized up. Your skin's very thin. Yeah. So that's fun. Just a little show and tell. So then for the gel, there's not too many there's different brands, but there's not too many different types, so you just rub it on your skin. Typically, I think a lot of people do their arms. Yeah, just because it's easy to access. And then for the patch, you just place it on your skin. Also typically on the arm, maybe under a shirt. I'm not too certain on that. So there's implants as well as the other forms. I don't really know a lot about the implants. But it came up more than once, so I decided to put them in. So from the research I've done, they're only implanted after another form of testosterone has been given, like a shot, typically a shot, I would say. And like a dose enough has been given, and then the implant will go in and kind of keep it going. I'm not certain like that on that. It's kind of like an IUD, because I know IUDs, a lot of people know how they work. You replace it every few months. Um, I assume maybe with another shot. Again, I'm not super researched on that. The implants are kind of, they're really rare to see, I would say. Okay, so then with the injections, main thing about injections is that, well, how the injections work is it's slowly released into the bloodstream to boost your levels, your testosterone levels. Um, it just kind of, once it goes in, it slowly kind of spreads throughout your bloodstream. Yeah, it's not not anything crazy. So in the video, I failed to mention how the testosterone, it does go in your bloodstream and it does just kind of hang out there. But how it works is that there are certain tissues with testosterone receptors on them. They will pick the testosterone out of your bloodstream, absorb it, and then tell the testosterone to do its purpose, and it will do what it needs to do. So it does just hang around, but then it does go somewhere. It doesn't just sit there in your bloodstream. So, yeah. The pros to the injections are there are higher doses, just because it's, I think, easier to do it that way, where it's just in a vial and not have to turn it into a gel or convert it into something else. I don't necessarily know why it's a higher dose. That's just how it is. They're less frequent, so with the gel and the patch, you have to apply it daily, or I mean, however much you want. But the highest dose you can do is daily. So with the shot, you only have to do it once a week or once every 2 weeks. You just don't worry about it really any other time except for when you have to do it. The results are faster. It's going straight into the bloodstream, with the gel and the patch, it sits on top of your skin and has to seep through. And especially with the patch, it's just a little different. I'll get into that later. But the desirable effects you want, like deeper voice, more hair, stuff like that, it appears faster. In the long run, this is a big factor. In the long run, shots are less expensive. It does depend on your insurance, and if you have insurance and where you're getting it from. But with the gels and the patch, because it's daily use, you're using more, and so you have to buy more, and over time it just really adds up. While with the shot, it's only once a week, once every 2 weeks. It just is a lot cheaper to do it less often. It's even cheaper with the shot if you're administering it yourself. If you go to a doctor's office, you have to pay a little bit, generally. Sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. It depends on where you go. Yeah. So then the cons of intramuscular, it's just general pain or discomfort. Giving yourself a shot, it's hard. It's hard work. Shots are never fun. There's peaks and valleys, which means I think it's most present in moods, I would say, and sweat for me as well. Mood, sweat, and hunger is how it shows up most presently, where you'll have times where your testosterone's really high and then kind of low, because with the way your shots are, it's just you give the shot, it immediately goes throughout your bloodstream. It's kind of a peak. So then as it settles in and gets kind of comfortable there, the levels will start to kind of even out and go back down. And then that's when you'd have So that's typically a negative just because it's not consistent. And consistent is kind of the goal sometimes. It's not the goal. Sorry, my cat's behind me and you can hear his bell. So another con is it's invasive. You're giving yourself a shot. It's just you're putting the needle in your body. It's uncomfortable. It's it's a lot. Yeah. So then the last con I have on here, there's probably more, but there's also probably more pros. So anyways, and then another con is it requires more like kind of planning or commitment because you have to be in a place where you can do your shot once a week or once every 2 weeks. You have to be able to have all this stuff with you. It's a lot more materials. You have to have the vial and the needles and the syringe and all that. And you have to, ideally you have to be in a clean space. So it's just a little bit more commitment to that, but it's only once a week, once every 2 weeks. You may not come across this if you're doing the injections, that you may not worry about it. Your doctors may not even ask you to just know the right one. But there are different types of intramuscular testosterone, the vials, the liquid, sorry. The liquid testosterone, there's a lot of different types. There's 3 different types, and so I'm going to go over each one. They do generally they do the same thing overall, but they just have kind of small differences that, depending on who you are and your body, you might want to take a different one. There's testosterone cypionate, which is injected. It's intramuscular, so you inject it in the muscle every 1 to 4 weeks. At home or by a professional. Recommended dose is 50 to 400 milligrams. So with testosterone, is a wide range because the range of natural testosterone is so wide. So the doses are wide. So it's hard to know how much you'll be taking. That's for you and your doctor to know. There's not really a way to just kind of guess and predict. So then there is testosterone enanthate, which it can be administered subcutaneously or intramuscularly. Subcutaneous dose is 75 milligrams a week, and intramuscular dose is 50 to 400, as with the cypionate. So, they're pretty much the same thing. This one, we're with enanthate, you just kind of have a bit more options with whether you want to do intramuscular or subcutaneous. And then another thing about enanthate that may be a problem is that your body can break down testosterone enanthate faster than testosterone cypionate. So that's just another thing to think of when your body it's just another worry, and I think it will cause more peaks and valleys, like how I talked about earlier, of how high days and low days. So yeah. And then the last one is testosterone undecanoate. This is the strongest that they have. This one's the most different than the other ones. So the other ones, once your body's used to it, you can go a few weeks without a dose. It's fine if you miss a dose. You just don't want to miss too many. But you can go a few weeks with missing a few doses and just be okay. With undecanoate, once your body's used to it, you can go 10 weeks without a shot. That's not skipping injections. That's an injection every 10 weeks. I should have specified that. You're not skipping them, it's every 10 weeks. So then, yeah. So if you skip a dose then, I think it's a little more hairy. I'm not entirely sure how that works because undecanoate is, it's very different. The recommended dose for undecanoate is 750 milligrams. So if we look back, the recommended dose for intramuscular for the other two are 50 to 400. So 750 it's a big jump. And so how it works is once you get your first dose, this isn't for everyone, every situation. This is just kind of the recommended one. So once you get the first shot, you get another one 4 weeks later, and then every 10 weeks. But you have to get it administered at a doctor's office. You can't do self-administered because there's a lot of risk. There's always risks of overdosing at home, but with such a high dose, you really want to be really careful with that. Okay. You also want to do it at a doctor's office because there's a risk of a POME, and that is a pulmonary oil microembolism, which basically means when an oil-based long-lasting fluid like testosterone enters your lungs, and then it's a deadly condition. Not condition. It's a deadly situation that happened to you because your lungs are filling with fluid, which is always bad. But especially an oil-based fluid, that doesn't really just go away. So that's why you have to do it at a doctor's office, just because it's an added risk that's not with the other ones. I think there's always a little bit of a risk, but not to the same level at all for enanthate and cypionate as there is with undecanoate. So, yeah. Okay, so for the gels and the patch, they're grouped together because it's kind of generally the same thing. To my knowledge, I don't know the big differences. They're generally the same because it's close to the same dose and it's administered in a similar way. As I said earlier, gels are more expensive in the long run because of the daily usage. You're just using more over time. So how the patch works, the gel kind of does it a similar way, but I think the patch is more effective in the way it works. Just from how it works, I think that the patch is more effective at it, but I think the gel does a just fine job as well. The main plus about the patch is that it delivers a controlled dose over a set period. So the dose, you put it on and it kind of sends out doses. It doesn't send out doses, but it just kind of, I don't know how it works exactly, but it releases doses into your skin. I think the gel, I don't know if the gel has like the ability to like control doses the same way, but it does control it a little bit just because of how it's on the skin. It's harder to get, it takes longer to get into the bloodstream. The purpose of this controlled dosing is to mimic natural testosterone production and how naturally it kind of sends out doses throughout the day. It's supposed to, the patch's goal is to simulate that same effect, which sounds really nice, but it is at a lower dose. So it's not the exact same, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's not the same as natural testosterone production because it's at a lower dosage. So you would think it sounds nicer, but it's gonna take a lot longer for the desirable effects to kick in. And they'll be at a less, not as aggressive as it is with the shot, I guess. I sound a little like I'm against the jelly lip patch. I'm not at all. It's just the facts are it is a lower dose. Yeah. So the patch, it absorbs through the skin into the bloodstream, gradually elevating and stabilizing. So you have the same peaks and valleys, but at a lower level and throughout the day, so it is more constant. So your levels will go up and then it'll start to go down, and then it delivers more to stabilize it, keep it back up. It's not there's not like a microchip or anything that's telling it to do this. I don't think. I'm not certain actually. I assume it just sends it out over I don't know exactly how that works. I just know it sends it out into the bloodstream slowly. Like it takes longer to send it out. That's what I know. I don't know exactly the exact science behind it. So I would do a lot of research, ask a lot of doctors about that. If that's something you want to consider. So the patch needs to be replaced daily. The gel and the patch need to be applied daily. And you have to move spots to avoid irritation. With the gel, I think that's less of an issue. But the patch and the shot as well. The patch and the shot both, you have to move spots each time. You have to move spots each time you administer it to avoid skin irritation. So pros of the patch and gel are steady release, like I said. Not with the shot where it's kind of all at once. Even though it's slowly, it is still all at once. Non-invasive, you just put it on your skin, call it a day. Very easy to use. Again, put it on your skin, call it a day. The shot's it requires a little bit. You have to kind of learn how to administer the shot. You have to, go through the process of drawing it up and all that, so it's a little bit more work. There are less check-ins with doctors also because of generally lower dosing and less risks of, not the same risks that shots have since it's going through the skin. You don't have to worry as much. Mostly because of lower doses. That's kind of the main thing. So the cons of the patch are skin irritation, lower doses, daily use. This could be a pro if that's something that you want. It's just, it's easier to just do it every day. It could be a pro. The sources I saw listed as a negative, so. For when it comes to lifestyle, it is less, it's less convenient for kind of outdoorsy types because contact with sweat and water exposure can kind of lessen it. Like, it'll make the patch less sticky and it'll make it kind of come off, or it can interfere. If it gets underneath, it can interfere with the dosing. So if you're like one that loves hiking, loves to go out all the time, you definitely want to consider that. I think the gel, it's not as big of an issue. But I think that if you sweat a lot, it could affect it a little bit. So there was a study with the gel and the shot. There was a study on mean muscle strength on a leg press. The people who took the gel had a steady increase of mean muscle strength over 90 days, but did not improve after 180 days, while people who took the intramuscular shot, who did the same study, they did continue to improve after 180 days. So I'm not sure about it's a little flawed of a study. I'm not sure about, or I didn't read the study directly. I read it through something else. So I'm unsure about, how the increasing of weights was, how all of that, the semantics of it all. And it's not super relevant, but I'm just kind of driving the point that gels in the patch have a lower dose than the shot does, which could be a pro, it could be a good thing, it could be something that you want. But for people, some people may not want that. Some people may want just high doses, all the effects, fast and aggressive. While some people may want them slower or just not want them at all, or want a few, not, it's like, yeah. So for dosages, I have a chart I'm going to show you, and then I'm also going to explain a little bit. The chart and the explanation I'm going to give you are from different sources, and so you're going to see some stuff and be like, that's not what it is on the chart. Just work with me here, okay? The dosages are very different because it's very dependent on your person. There's not really an easy way to kind of group together all the doses except for by having a wide range. So that's why I explained 50 to 400. Some people have a lower range, but I like to go with a broader range just to really drive in that point. Okay, so here's the chart. Um, there's some things I didn't talk about, and some things that I did talk about that's not on here. They show undecanoate as orally as a pill. There are testosterone pills, but there's not a lot of research on it, and I'm kind of confused by it overall. So yeah. They also show the implant, as I talked about earlier. You're gonna see that on this it says the patch is scrotal and non-scrotal. This is for people who are suffering from low testosterone who were born male. It's a common thing with age. You kind of lose testosterone production if you were born a man. Yeah, so most studies and stuff like that are on men, people who were born as men and who just have low testosterone levels, wanted to increase it a little bit. So that's, some of the studies aren't perfect, just because that's the world we live in. So we just have to take what we can get, kind of. Yeah, so, and also as you can see, the patch doesn't show a dose, but I have dosages for you. Okay. So these regimens are specifically for FTM people transitioning and taking testosterone. So for sapionate and enanthate, it's 100 to 200 milligrams every 2 weeks, or 50 to 100 milligrams every week. Then for the gel, it's 2.5 to 10 milligrams daily. Another kind of wide range. It's still has to do with the person. And then for the patch, 2.5 to 7.5 milligrams daily. So the patch has a lower range, but that doesn't mean that. It just means you can't get if you need the highest dose, it's not gonna be as high, but you can still, there's a lot of overlap there. So now we're gonna talk about similarities. There are the same outcomes for the gel, patch, and shot, symptoms wise, as in the general effects. But for the patch and the gel, they're lower doses, and they take longer since they're designed to act as natural testosterone, and they're administered slowly. It just takes a bit longer for the symptoms to arise. And the gel and the patch generally are just designed for, as I talked about earlier, people who are born male that have low testosterone and just want to increase it a little bit. This is a big thing. So, all of it, shot, gel, and patch, are approved by the FDA, but not for transitioning. So, again, they are approved for people born male who have low testosterone levels, but for the purpose of transitioning, not for the purpose of. Their purpose is just to boost their levels a little bit, and these effectively do that. They're not for people to boost their levels. They haven't been. Okay. The FDA just has not approved it as a way to transition, but that doesn't mean that it's not okay, like that it's bad. It's still perfectly safe. The reason that's not approved is just transphobia, and they don't want to. It's still approved. It's completely legal to take it as a trans person who is transitioning, for now, as a filming. It's the end of February 2026, so as a filming, it's still legal in the US. I don't know if it will be later on. But you can still use it, just the only reason it's not approved for transitioning is because of transphobia, pretty much. To my knowledge. I haven't done that much research on that. But I just, when it boils down to it, typically it's just because some people don't like other people. Another thing is for all of them is that you can purposely take lower doses if you don't want all the side effects, or if you just want a more androgynous look and you just want to be, you want to kind of even out your levels so that it kind of similar, similar estrogen, similar testosterone levels, not one higher than the other, you can do that as well. You just take lower doses. That's why the patch or the gel could be better, because you could just want a lower dose. And you just don't want the aggressive effects, like a lot of hair, a lot of sweat. It's hard, you know? Okay, now we have health risks. Because it's a medicine, there are risks, you know? For all the forms, short-term safety is guaranteed, just as in, if, you're taking it for a few years, you're not going to immediately drop dead, you know? But because not a lot of people like to offer themselves up to be studied, and there just isn't that many trans people who have been taking testosterone for, over 50 years and want to offer themselves up to be studied, there's just not a lot of information on long-term safety. But generally, it's okay. Like, when I mean safety, I mean like kind of degradation of organs, stuff like that. Yeah. So short-term safety is assured by far, but long-term safety just is a bit more up in the air. So with injectable testosterone, there is a higher risk of a venous thromboembolism. I think that's how you say it. I'm going to spell it out because I'm not sure. I'm also not sure this is the correct spelling. But what that is basically is blood clots in veins. So in the source that I have, only checked after one dose. And so it could appear in later doses. I think also for there is a chance, because the gel and the patch are lower doses, it may take longer to appear. So that is also something to look out for. Intramuscular injections could increase short-term risk of cardiovascular events and have a higher overall risk of hospitalizations and deaths. That's just because it's a mix of high doses and shots going through the skin. It's not a super high risk. I wouldn't be super worried about it, but it still is a risk. And I want to make sure that you know everything that you can know. So it's not a huge risk, but it's a possibility. So I just want to put that out there. If one is having prolonged skin-to-skin contact with a child or a woman, some of the gel could rub off on them. The gel could also rub off on... The gel can rub off on anyone, but it's specifically if it rubs off, because men have because people born as males already have natural testosterone production. If you add a little bit more, it's not gonna... I think you're... it's not gonna be that bad with the man, because they already have testosterone and it's a low dose, so it's not really gonna affect them. But child or a woman, it could rub off on them. They could experience some of the effects, and it could be kind of damaging to a child. Depending on the age, younger specifically, it could be damaging to them to have that in their body. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of a major thing. Side effects specific to intramuscular injections that are a risk are injection site reactions, maybe a little itchy, just a little rash or something. Headache, you get headaches sometimes. Enlarged prostate, that's not something you have to worry about, because people born as female don't have a prostate. So if you're taking testosterone and you were born a female, you don't have to worry about a prostate. That's just not something you have to worry about. But it is still, a thing. And then there's also risk of high blood pressure and higher risk of a blood clot. And at the same time, there's also higher risk of death from a stroke or heart attack, as I talked about earlier with the cardiovascular event. Okay. Drug interactions. These are just means if you take these, it could interact with the testosterone, and you should talk to your doctor if you are taking them and you want to take testosterone and what you think the best, what you should do with that. So insulin, blood thinner, and corticosteroids, and just like general anticoagulants. Well, okay, I'll be frank with you here. It says on my thing. It says corticosteroids (parentheses anticoagulants). So I don't know if the corticosteroids are anticoagulants or. Hold on. My thing's not working. Just give me 1 second. So I don't know about anticoagulants. Or like, I don't know about that. But just, it's anticoagulants and corticosteroids. If they're the same thing, forgive me. So, another thing. Now, this is specifically someone who, actually, hold on. So this is specifically someone who took steroids. They were born male and they took steroids to, they took steroids because they just wanted to test it out. And those steroids included testosterone. So it's a magazine article. The article is titled "Look at Me, I'm a Big Strong Boy." I don't know if you can see that. This is from the 2008, I believe, April issue of Esquire. Anyways, I saw this when I was looking some stuff up, and I saw that. I saw that, and it was a fun read. It was, anyways. I like to keep it in its protective case. Anyways, the author of the article, his name is Craig Davidson. What he experienced was he was doing the testosterone shots in his butt. And a bubble had formed, a big bubble that was making it hard for him to kind of lay down and like sit down. So because of his high doses that he was taking, it was kind of hard to break down. But because that was his purpose was steroids, his purpose was to grow muscle. That was his purpose. Assuming you have a different purpose, the purpose of taking testosterone has lower doses than the purpose of gaining muscle mass. To that degree, when you're getting more muscle mass than when people born female, when they're trying to increase, people born female who are transitioning to male, a side effect is increasing muscle mass, and that's generally a nice side effect. But when the purpose is someone who's born male to increase muscle mass, they already have the base level of testosterone, so they're just further increasing upon that. But with higher doses, because I don't know. I am taking steroids, but it's not important. So anyway, so a bubble can form, but generally because you will be taking a lower dose than what he was taking, the bubble should just break down over time. You could just try rubbing at it. I know I get bubbles occasionally. You just rub at it, it goes away after a few days, maybe a week. So if it's still there, I would go to the doctor. What he did actually was he stuck a needle in the bubble and put a syringe in it and took out the liquid, which had like turned black. It was a lot. That shouldn't happen to you. That was just, yeah. Anyways, so which is better? This is entirely dependent on what you want. If you want a more androgynous look, you want a lower dose. You may want to do the patch or the gel. You can still do the shot and ask for a lower dose. If you say, hey, I want to do this, but I want specifically low doses because I don't want the full effect. Your doctors are more than happy to comply with that, or they should be. You can do a lot of mixing and matching in terms of doses. If there's a symptom you want, you can kind of take a normal amount until you get the dose or the symptoms you like. Once, if you're just happy with that and you want, you can start taking lower doses to kind of just have that. It doesn't get that much higher than what you're already at. If you're really happy with where you are, you can start taking lower doses. You can really do a lot with dosing. More with the shot, it's a lot easier to control. With the gel, I think it's a little easy too, but the patch is kind of the hardest to control your doses. So lifestyle is really a huge factor. I talked about it earlier where, if you're sweating a lot, it could really be a lot for the patch. If you're really outdoorsy, you love going out and love just living outdoors, then the patch may not be the best way. Also, if you're really busy all the time, this shot could be really good because it's just one and done. You don't have to worry about it. There's risk of forgetting it, but a daily thing, you're gonna forget it more often than a once a week thing. Sometimes, I don't know. The only wrong way to do it, the only wrong way for any of these is the unsafe way. So go to a doctor, tell them, what should I do? I want to do this. Tell them what, I want this, I want this. Whatever you want, just talk to a doctor. Doing it yourself, there's a lot more risks. Specifically, there's risks of overdosing, which are really bad, and I'll talk about that in another video. So that is kind of the brunt of just the facts at you. I have a little bit more. I have a little show and tell. This is my testosterone. This is an unopened bottle because it's an unopened bottle. So as you can see, I take testosterone cypionates. So the vial contains 200 milligrams, but I don't take 200 milligrams. My dose is not 200 milligrams. As you can see, it says for intramuscular use only. That's not focused. You're not going to be able to see that. I'll take a picture of it. So yeah, it's, when it comes all taped together, so when I undo the tape, some of it rips off, but, yeah, so then, there's just some information on the side. It says, how you're supposed to store it, it says stuff about kind of if you keep it too low, there's ways to warm it up. It also says, that it contains, like, some of the stuff it contains, because it contains preservatives, because otherwise, if if you're administering at home, you're getting a lot of vials at once, it'll last you several months. You have to be able to store it for several months. So there's some preservatives in that, if that's something you don't like. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't have any personal information on it. I don't think it does. So I'll open it up for you. It comes with two things. It comes with the vial itself and then also a little information sheet. It just kind of says how it works, risks, tests you should take, shouldn't take it if you're pregnant. There's a lot of adverse reactions. Drug abuse is real bad. Don't overdose. It also says chemical compound, if that's something you want to see. You can't see that. I'll take a picture of it. I've actually never looked at this before. So I've never even really thought about it. If you have cancer, that could be bad. Oh, another health risk is cancer. Because you're adding more cells and I'm actually not entirely sure how it works, but or because you're creating more cells so often with kind of rapid changes, like more the way your hair grows, you sweat more. There's a lot of changes, muscle mass too. With more cells dividing, there is more risk for cancer, because there is more risk for not cancer. There's more risk for a tumor because so many cells are dividing. There could be a messed up cell that could be a tumor, could be cancerous. Yeah, so this is the vial it comes in. It says the exact same stuff on the box with information and yeah, so as you can see, if you can see in there, it's a clear fluid. It's a little yellowy, a little yellowish tint to it. Yeah. This is 200 milligrams, so your dose is not going to be this big. It's going to be a lot smaller than this. My dose right now, I think, is like less than a quarter of this. You know, maybe an eighth, not an eighth. I don't know exactly. I don't know. I've never understood how the milligram thing works. I've just never questioned it. The milligrams versus milliliters. Oh, it's probably microliters. I don't even know, bro. I'm being honest, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. I also have a little fun fact to end the video with. This is a book I read my freshman year of high school. I didn't finish it because it was kind of boring. It's a nonfiction book. It's about chemicals. It's by the periodic table. I don't know why I read this as a freshman. I like reading nonfiction, so I picked it up. However, in this, they talk about... There's a little section on testosterone. By a little section, I mean one parentheses. And it really spoke to me as a freshman when I was starting testosterone. And I remember it so vividly. So I'll read to you an excerpt. In the 1920s, two Chicago chemists had to puree several thousand pounds of bull testicles from a stockyard to get a few ounces of the first pure testosterone. So, you know, we've come so far in medicine. I read that and it really spoke to me. Even as a freshman, I was like, the life I live, I'm so privileged and so grateful. And like the people that came before me, they worked so hard. Being trans is such a hard thing, you know. Yeah. So thanks so much for watching. The next video I'm going to do is going to be on symptoms and side effects of testosterone, so look out for that. It'll probably be like a month, but we'll see. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you had fun. Yeah, do you want... Here, hold on. It's okay, Soupy. It's okay. This is my cat, Soup. He's a little sleepy, but he says bye. I'm sorry, Soupy. Go back to bed. Bye.